¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes. Pues hemos asistido a esa rueda de prensa de Ursula von der Leyen con el presidente español. El presidente del gobierno, Pedro Sánchez, la ha recibido en la sede de Red Eléctrica, donde ha visitado el centro de control eléctrico. La presidenta de la Comisión Europea inicia una mini gira por España y otros 4 países, Dinamarca, Grecia y Luxemburgo, para entregar los primeros aprobados, aunque aún serán provisionales, pero darán acceso a los fondos europeos. En esa comparecencia de prensa, la presidenta de la Comisión Europea ha dicho que ha resaltado el plan de recuperación, que va a ser muy importante para España, también para Europa. Dice que los países tienen que tener herramientas importantes, más fuertes, para poder salir de esta crisis producida por la pandemia. También ha dicho la presidenta que va a dar luz verde a ese plan de recuperación de España, donde esos fondos se van a empezar a recibir ya prácticamente entre julio y agosto, y España va a recibir en este año 2021 alrededor de unos 19.000 millones de euros. Rueda de prensa posterior a esa visita de la presidenta, como decimos, con el presidente del gobierno. Comenzamos ya Visión Global. Pues nos vamos hasta México. Allí está nuestro compañero José Ricardo Rangel. Buenas tardes.
¿Qué tal? Muy buenas tardes, Manuel, amigos. Pues muy interesante el tema de, sobre todo, toda la reactivación que tiene España. Estamos muy enfocados en estar escuchando ahí a presidencia y toda esta estrategia. Y pues bueno, nosotros estamos en terrenos negativos, pero rápidamente, si quieres, Manuel, vámonos con nuestro invitado, porque tiene unas noticias muy importantes que decirnos.
Perfecto, José Ricardo. Iñigo Castillo, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes.
Encantado de estar aquí con ustedes.
El placer es nuestro. Bueno, le quería preguntar, ¿cuál es el entorno actual de financiamiento para la Pyme mexicana?
Bueno, la actualidad del financiamiento de la Pyme mexicana es uno antes de la pandemia y uno después de la pandemia, como casi todas las cosas que vemos hoy, ¿no? Tradicionalmente, la Pyme mexicana ha encontrado en los canales tradicionales de financiamiento pues muchos obstáculos.
¿Cuánto dura Visila?
Que limitan hoy el crecimiento de las pymes, que son de una manera pues, el motor económico del país, ¿no? Hemos visto, y nosotros somos uno de los jugadores en ese sector hoy, pues un crecimiento de alternativas de financiamiento, muchas de ellas basadas en la tecnología, como hoy es UNICLICK, y que lo que buscamos es acercar a estas pymes a una nueva realidad o nuevas oportunidades de financiamiento, otra vez basados mucho en desarrollo tecnológico.
Oye, Íñigo, una pregunta. El día de ayer nos enteramos de una, pues ahora sí, de la primera fintech, digámoslo así, que adquirió un banco, ¿no? Creo que en el caso de Unifin, pues fue totalmente diferente, pues el tema, sobre todo, de llegar a esta transformación digital a través de UNICLICK. Platícanos un poquito de esta transformación que sufrió Unifin.
Así es, Unifin, una empresa líder en el mercado financiero de México, con más de casi 30 años en el mercado, como cualquier otra financiera, y esto prácticamente a nivel mundial, pues se ha venido preguntando en los últimos años cómo formar parte de la transformación digital a la que están siendo sujetas varias industrias, ¿no? Así nace UNICLICK. Efectivamente, Unifin decide crear esta empresa. Hoy somos de alguna manera una empresa independiente, por supuesto con el soporte de una empresa muy sólida, con mucha experiencia como es Unifin, pero que nos ha permitido desarrollar capacidades tecnológicas dentro de una cultura muy innovadora. Somos un equipo muy joven y creo que ha sido un acierto de parte de Unifin abordar su transformación tecnológica desde esta perspectiva, ¿no? También hemos visto muchos casos en donde instituciones financieras han batallado mucho con conseguir sus planes de transformación, cambiar las inercias y las culturas dentro de organizaciones que están ya muy establecidas es muy complicado, y en este caso nosotros nos han dejado nacer bajo una estructura muy ágil, muy innovadora, y eso nos ha permitido hoy ser no nada más la plataforma digital de Unifin bajo la marca UNICLICK, sino también de alguna manera el laboratorio digital de donde saldrán muchas de las innovaciones y de las ideas que hoy Unifin necesita para lograr la transformación digital al interior de la compañía, ¿no?
Para nuestros amigos allá en España, rapidísimo, si pudieran ver el gráfico, Unifin, pues en el último mes ha repuntado, pues yo creo que más del 15, 16%, ahorita de hecho está en una tendencia ahí a la alza, muy bien marcada, y yo creo que pues aparte de esta noticia que ustedes están dando, pues de esta transformación digital. Íñigo, hablamos un poco de antes y el después de estos financiamientos. Sobre todo, me gustaría hablar del después, porque pues ahorita, si bien se está promocionando mucho impulso a la pyme, a la MIPYME, pues lo cierto es de que algunos bancos, sobre todo instituciones financieras bancarias, pues no están llegando a la pyme. ¿Cómo lo está manejando? ¿Cuál es la estrategia de UNICLICK al respecto?
Bueno, primero nosotros vemos la perspectiva de manera muy optimista, ¿no? Confiamos mucho en que México tiene áreas de oportunidades gigantescas, confiamos mucho en el empresario mexicano y esa confianza se transmite, creo, en la manera en la que estamos abordando las oportunidades de financiamiento que le ofrecemos a ese empresario, ¿no? Hemos visto que a lo largo de la pandemia ha habido muchísima resiliencia. Como sabemos, México no se distinguió necesariamente por los apoyos que los empresarios recibieron por parte del gobierno, pero el empresario mexicano tradicionalmente ha sabido arreglárselas solo, ¿no? Y esta creo que no fue la excepción, ¿no? Y ahora que se ve un poco un panorama mucho más positivo del que se veía hace algunos meses, pues vemos muchas pymes con ánimo de retomar los caminos que tenían antes, inclusive con una mayor urgencia. Dentro de esas urgencias que vemos hoy más, es una urgencia por digitalizarse, por modernizarse. Lo que ha hecho esta pandemia en muchos sectores es agilizar tendencias que igual y veíamos en el tiempo que se iban a materializar un poquito más tarde, y en ese sentido la necesidad de esta digitalización que tienen hoy en día empata, digamos, con una necesidad de financiamiento. Ahí es donde entramos nosotros para solucionarles de manera muy ágil y muy cercana esas necesidades que las pymes pudieran tener.
Oye, Íñigo, sobre todo los montos, muchas veces esta transformación digital y las plataformas digitales están como limitadas a ciertos montos. En el caso de UNICLICK, ¿a partir de qué monto pueden solicitar y con qué características más o menos de producto pudieran estar entrando las pymes?
Sí, así es. En UNICLICK, la pyme tradicional que llega a acercarse con nosotros son las pymes que están más del rango de pequeñas. Dentro de las pymes hay pequeñas y medias, son pequeñas, muchas de ellas con poca experiencia en cuanto a la contratación de créditos y con poco acceso a la banca tradicional, ¿no? En ese sentido, nosotros damos créditos de hasta 2.5 millones de pesos, que por lo general van dirigidos a aminorar necesidades de capital de trabajo, y también, como mencionaba antes, a invertir en el corto y mediano plazo en herramientas que ayuden al crecimiento de la pyme, ¿no? En usar un ejemplo, tenemos una alianza recién cerrada con Microsoft que está llevando a cabo un programa muy agresivo de digitalización de pymes. Nosotros fuimos, digamos, escogidos por ellos para hacer su brazo de financiamiento para que muchas de estas pymes a través de nosotros puedan acceder a las herramientas que hoy Microsoft pone a disposición de estas pymes para acelerar su digitalización en esta nueva normalidad que vemos hoy.
Oye, entonces esto está importantísimo, Íñigo, porque aquí a los amigos de España, por ejemplo, existe un programa digamos que de evangelización por parte de NAFIN, del programa Prime ¿no? Ustedes estarían haciendo casi lo mismo, pero para el tema de transformación digital hacia las pymes, ¿no? ¿Tienes más o menos como qué es lo que ofrece Microsoft en este tipo de financiamientos?
Pues mira, Microsoft tiene toda una suite, digamos, de herramientas y servicios que pone a disposición de las empresas. Muchas van dirigidas o muchas empatan con los momentos que estamos viviendo hoy, ¿no? Muchas de estas, el hecho de hacer teletrabajo, de que sus colaboradores estén trabajando desde casa, pues muchas de ellas no estaban listas para esto, ¿no? Desde el punto de vista de capacidades tecnológicas y de herramientas, ¿no? Pues Microsoft, una empresa súper consolidada en ese sentido, está llevando a cabo otra vez un esfuerzo muy importante para tratar de acercar esas herramientas a la pequeña y mediana empresa mexicana, muchas de las cuales a su vez pues necesitan el capital para acceder a esas herramientas, ¿no? De manera muy inmediata. Y ahí es donde entramos nosotros, como para cerrar la pinza, como se dice por acá, y hacerles un poco más fácil y aplanarles un poco el camino a las pymes en su búsqueda de una digitalización y por lo tanto de una mayor eficiencia y mayor productividad en sus negocios.
Íñigo Castillo, te agradezco de verdad tu tiempo y pues muchas felicidades por esta iniciativa que está dando UNICLICK a través de, bueno, más bien Unifin a través de UNICLICK y pues mucho éxito en el camino, Íñigo. Íñigo Castillo, director de administración de UNICLICK, muchísimas gracias por estar aquí en Visión Global.
Muchísimas gracias, Ricardo. Encantado de estar aquí. Muchísimas gracias por la invitación. Un saludo a todos.
Gracias.
Gracias, Íñigo. Buenas
Manuel,
tardes.
Pues,
gracias.
Nos vemos el día de mañana.
Sí, así es. Bueno, pues vemos ahora la entrevista que ha hecho nuestra corresponsal en Estados Unidos, Visilabo Coco, que habla de la industria del cava y del prosecco en Estados Unidos. Nos vemos mañana. Buenas tardes. Adiós.
Welcome to Global Vision. I am super excited because we have here with us Enora Cheola, who is the CEO in the United States of Freixenet, and I cannot be happier to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, Basilia. My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, the first question is, what's your relationship with wine? And if you can tell us a little bit about background, how this marriage between you and wine happened?
Yeah, so it's a long story, but first I was born in the wine country, right? In Italy. When I was very young, I grew up within vineyards. My father owned a very small family-owned winery. So when I was 3-5 years old, I used to remember helping them during the harvest, especially. And then, in Italy, you grew up drinking wines when you're young, when you have family meals. And then I went in a different direction. I went in study to become a civil engineer, so in construction, especially development of highways. But then when I decided to get married with my wife, she's American, to move to the United States, there was a perfect timing where I could reconnect back with my first love, which was wine. And then the opportunity with Mioneto Prosecco.
Yes, tell us, because you are known to really put Prosecco in the map, and Mioneto, through Mioneto, you put Prosecco in the map. How this happened? Because in the United States, it was not so popular, the Prosecco, but you make it popular. So how this happened?
Well, so when I joined Mioneto, I joined specifically for this project in the United States. This was 1997. And it was very exciting because, I came to the United States a few times and I see people drinking wine and generally speaking, and sparkling wine. But I really started to learn about the business here when I moved here. And at the beginning, most of the Prosecco was sold here as a cheap alternative to champagne. And in fact, my first client call, New York City, I remember seeing some of the Prosecco on the bottle shelf full of dust, and I wasn't selling. And so the beginning was, in a way, easy, right? Because New York just started to change the laws. You could do tasting in the stores, and we did tasting in the store every single weekend, every single Friday, Thursday, every time we could. And not only in the store, but even, any gallery open in Soho. I remember, working during the day on the street and during the evening at the gallery openings to make sure that people tasted the beauty of Prosecco. And when you taste Prosecco, it's almost impossible not to like it. So it was an easy job in that respect, because people didn't know what it was, but they knew they liked it. And it was just a matter of telling them the story about the family, the Prosecco grape, where it comes from, plus, Italy back then. And of course, today, really start to be a love place for every American to go for vacation. So for them, it was just, drinking a glass of Prosecco and thinking they are in Italy. And the food, the Italian food, started to really get very popular, more sophisticated. So it was a combination of a lot of good things happening for Italy overall, but then, of course, Prosecco.
And how was your encounter with Mionetto? How this happened and how you met them?
Well, it was nice because growing up in the country, in wine region, and of course, Italy, there's a lot of restaurants. I grew up knowing that Prosecco, Mionetto was basically the best-selling Prosecco in our region. And so for us, my family, and then my friends, when we go out, we always drink Mionetto. Then when finally I decided to move here in the United States, because my wife, she's American, we thought a better future for both of us would be here. I started to look for an opportunity of working here in the States. And, and of the list that I come up with, I said, I don't think I want to be another job in construction in the United States or other things like that. I want to do something that's different. And then finally, I got in touch with the family Mionetto, and it was a 6 months process of dating with the family, because it's a big leap of faith for them as well. Was that sending someone from Italy that didn't know so much America and nor the business in the United States. So it was great. I interviewed with the family a few times, and then finally we found an agreement that was great for both of us. I trained in Italy, and then I moved here, within a few months.
Wow. What year was that?
That was in September 1997. So I got married in August, and then I moved 2 weeks later in the United States and started the adventure. So it was really cool. Very good time.
And you mentioned that when you came to New York, the wine laws were starting to change. Can you tell us a little bit about the background of that change, and when was that?
That was, so I was here, my first trip here to set up the business was in July 1997, and the laws just passed a few months earlier. So, I'm in the office doing all paperwork, business plan, and then I said to myself, I'm looking at the numbers so much here, but what if this doesn't work, So I said to let me go out and sell. And so I took the bag and I went out for 2 days selling, and every place I stopped, I basically made a sell. My first stop was a sell.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a liquor store on 3rd Avenue. They loved it. They ordered, and they said, if you come Friday for the tasting, it will be great. And I was there on a Friday, and and you taste the product with the people, then you get excited. So it was very good. It was early on, perfect timing, and a few months later, the New York Times brought an article about the new wave of tasting in the stores in New York City. And we were part of it because we were doing tasting all over the place. And it was such a new thing that not everyone, was embracing it yet.
Wow. It's fascinating that you were able to go through that transition, and also how the consumptions of wine also was changing and the way to drink it, right?
Absolutely. And the thing is, sometimes, it's good not to know so much about things, because I didn't know that you couldn't taste, in Italy, you can taste on the street, right? So I didn't know very well. And the store owner told me, Mr. Lee, told me, no, you can do it. With the law just changed. So I was extremely excited about it.
Wow. And tell us, how long has been the relationship between Mioneto and Freixenet, and how this relationship started?
So we have to go back a little bit. The first thing was, so Mioneto family sold the winery to our Enkel group back in 2008. And so Enkel became the owner of Mioneto Winery and the US here branch, distribution branch of United States for the Mioneto brand. And then in 2018, so about 10 years later, Freixenet family and the Enkel family, they joined their businesses. And so in United States, Freixenet had already a company as well. And so we joined the two companies. We joined Mioneto USA, Freixenet USA, and became Freixenet Mioneto USA. So you know, a year before we were competitor and I want to say hate each other, but definitely try to take a business away from each other. And then now I see things differently. You know, I see that there is a consumer for Cava, there is a consumer for Prosecco. And I drink Cava some days, Prosecco other days. So there is room for everyone, you know.
That's a beautiful story, right? About how collaboration could change completely the perspective.
It's true, and that's especially true when you start to get to know people, because then you see the passion of their brand, their wines in a different way, and then you start to appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's very important to keep your mind open, you know, because you know it's like many other wine. There's so much wines in the wine industry, and the people have different tastes. So and there are different occasions. So there is opportunity for everyone to coexist.
And tell us about the Cava market in the United States. Is Cava popular? And if you could share with us some numbers.
So, you know, Cava was, before Prosecco, the best-selling, excuse me, sparkling wine was Champagne and Cava, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then Prosecco started in the 2005 to start to get very popular, and now Prosecco is bigger than Cava. But what happened in the last 5 years, because there are more people now drinking sparkling wine, Cava now is coming back. And the thing is, Cava, it's actually a very high quality sparkling wine because it's made with the same method of Champagne. There is a vintage dated Cava, you know, and you know it takes 2 years to make, or even sometimes more, to make a very good Cava. So because all of this, you get more consumer are open to drink sparkling wine at any occasion, and so Cava it's coming back much stronger than it ever been. Right now, the size of the market here in the United States about 24 million, 28 million bottles per year, which is a good size. You know, US is one of the top 3 markets for Cava as a whole category, and is one of the top markets for us for Freixenet. Wow. You know, so very, very good. We're very excited about it. And you know, Freixenet is an iconic brand, and everyone I talk to, they always tell me, "Oh, Freixenet, the black bottle," and so they remember, they know, and they have some memories connected to the brand. So it's really nice to see that.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about what is known about Freixenet and Segura Viudas here? And what was the story with the US market?
Well, you know, talking about pioneer, Freixenet was a real pioneer because they were here right after Prohibition. They opened their own office in New Jersey back in the 1940s. They sent, back then, the Freixenet family or Ferrer family, they sent their son here in United States to run the business. And so there's a long history, a long connection, a long tradition of Freixenet in the United States. The Ferrer family, it's really, really attached to this market. Pedro Ferrer, the son of Jose Ferrer, spent 10 years here in the United States. One of his kids was born in the United States, and one of his kids actually live in LA. So it's a very, very strong connection with the United States. And then in mid 80s, the Ferrer family purchased another Cava producer was Segura Viudas. Segura Viudas was already in the United States, so they combined the two companies and they kept growing. And at the top of the category development was the millennium, 2000. Fresinet was a million case brand in the United States, and the number 2 was Segura Viudas. So amazing story about the family and how they established the brands here in the United States.
Oh, that's wonderful. And tell us about what happened during the COVID times in the wine industry. Did you fear, you had any kind of impact?
Well, we were very afraid, as everybody, right? Because we didn't know what would have happened in the next month or the next 6 months. But I keep talking internally with our team and says, you never know. Because my past experience, not that you can have an experience like this, of course, but when there is a crisis or there is a time of concern, at the end, people find something that makes them feel good about it. And what I've seen is that Prosecco and sparkling wine usually actually perform better during this time because they are relatively inexpensive. And, you can have a glass of Prosecco or a glass of Cava and feel you treat yourself for something special, right? Without breaking the bank. And in fact, 90 days later or 60 days later, we start to see, an incredible increase on the business with a retailer and grocery stores. And so overall, during COVID, sparkling wine, Prosecco, and Cava performed quite well. Very, very fortunate to see that, and very fortunate to have brands like Mioneto and Fresinet that have been in the market for a long time. So people recognize those brands and they stick to those brands. Yeah.
And recently in Fresinet, you have launched a very disruptive product, which is the alcohol removed sparkling white wine. How is this performing in the market? How is the reception?
So very interesting. Everyone is very interested. The distributors are very excited. And we have a lot of know-how about non-alcoholic sparkling wine. We've been producing it in Spain and in France for the last 15 years. And so we know how to make a very good non-alcoholic or alcohol-removed sparkling wine. And it tastes really, really good. So we launched it for January, of course, dry January. But as we see already, there is a residual business in the months that people, maybe they don't think about that. And I see there is a growing trend. Maybe it's not going to be a big category, but I think it's a growing trend for people at home consumption, but even on premise, because cocktail with sparkling wines now are hot and mocktail are hot. And, right? I tell you, a non-alcoholic Cava cocktail is just refreshing, beautiful. I mean, it's 5 p.m. you can drink 2 or 3 glasses, and it's just makes you very happy without having to think about that. You may have alcohol in your body, so you can drive, or you have to worry about not drinking anymore. So it's really good.
Did you see any difference between the consumer that is looking for wines and the consumer who is looking for Prosecco and Cava?
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of a difference. Maybe the wine consumer sometimes is more sophisticated, or I will say knows more about wine, generally speaking. But overall, I think it's not so much about the consumer; it's about the moment, the occasion. So you can see that there are some somms that they drink very expensive or very esoteric wines. But then they have, with their friends and their family, they have a glass of Cava or Prosecco. So there is a little bit of difference in consumer, but it's more about the consumption opportunity. Sparkling wine like Prosecco and Cava, it's enjoyment for yourself, with your friends, with your family. So you don't have a specific reason to open a bottle of Prosecco or Cava.
Anytime is good.
Exactly. Bubbly is always great.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just to conclude, what is the plans that you have with Fresinet and Mioneto moving forward? And how do you see the sparkling wine market moving along?
Well, I think the sparkling wine market, it's in a good place here in the United States. The per capita consumption in US is not as much as it is in Europe. So I think there's room to grow for Prosecco, for Cava, for other sparkling wines. So we feel very positive about it. So our goal is to keep developing the brands and making sure that we speak to consumer and we train the consumer to understand what Cava is, Prosecco is, but especially what Freixenet is and what Mioneto stands for in terms of quality, heritage, and style, because that's what defines our brands different than others.
Definitely. Well, I think that in America, we love a good story, and both families have beautiful stories. So I think that's also another way that people connect also with the stories of these brands. And I think you make a beautiful work really to bring these stories into the market, to allow people to understand what is the lifestyle that is in Europe. And I feel that people embrace it.
Thank you. Definitely, there is a lot of heritage in both brands, and our mission really is to tell the story, because there is family, people behind it. Sometimes, of course, you don't see that, just by looking at the bottle. So that's our job.
Very good. And I thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm sure the audience is going to enjoy as much as I did this babbling interview.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. And it was great to see you.
Good to see you too. Ciao, ciao.
Good. Ciao, ciao. Bye. Thank you.